Okay, so today we're answering some frequently asked questions about the Rooted and Rising Black Entrepreneur Mental Wealth and Business Wellness Initiative. Got my notebook here with me. I wrote some questions down that have been coming to me by email and through our direct messages on social media. And I'm going to use this as an opportunity to answer some of those questions. And hopefully, it gives persons who are thinking about applying some clarity. So if we haven't met yet, I am Patlee. I'm the owner and lead facilitator of Reyou Mindfulness Collective, and I'm also the program lead for this Black entrepreneur and small business project that is funded by the government of Manitoba. So I have a couple of questions that I wanted to sort of acknowledge and share some of the answers, and I'll get into it. So one of the core questions or one of the frequent questions that's come up is, I haven't launched my business yet. Do I still qualify to take part in this program? And I'm going to put that question, I'm going to add to that question the other statements that we've gotten from individuals who do end up signing up. And their statement is typically, I've been doing this entrepreneur and small business thing for a while, and I feel like I need to kind of reevaluate where I am with everything. So my answer to that question is to my question about where you are in your business. If you haven't yet launched, if you still qualify, I think it's important to note that this program is available for Black entrepreneurs who are at any stage of their business development. So whether you're in the idea stage, whether you are in that startup stage, or you've been doing your business for a while, there is room for you in this program. In fact, we actually want to have that mix of people at different stages of their business, because this is how we're going to learn from each other. These are going to be some of the key learning points where we can sit together as a community and help answer those questions and create confidence for persons who are just starting out, and also help people who have been doing it for a while to really sort of think about some of the things that they could potentially be doing more differently or more efficiently even. So that's question one. Question number two. Is there an evening or weekend time for this program? And that question is usually accompanied by the statement, I'm too busy to take time off during the workday to do this program Wednesday mornings from 9:30 to 12. So here's my answer to that one. When we were organizing this program, we actually did quite a bit of research, and we actually try to find out through just cursory research as well as talking to people, what's the busiest time in the entrepreneur's weekly schedule, right? And so we identified that most entrepreneurs, Thursday and Friday going into the weekend, are really busy days. Monday is like a recovery day, you know. And so we decided on Wednesday mornings for this session, because that is the time when most entrepreneurs and small business owners are actually sort of in that, not too busy, but just getting out of recovery in their sort of their work week cycle. The other major reason why we chose Wednesday mornings for this program, is because of something that's, in psychological terms, we can talk about this as decision fatigue. So when you're constantly doing work, or you work throughout the day, and then you're having now to go into something that requires a little bit of brain power, some focused attention, a lot more of your energy on the evening or the weekend, when your body knows that it needs that time to rest, it can become more difficult than easy at the end of the day. So we refer to, so there's a thing that the human body and the human brain goes through. It's called decision fatigue. The longer you are awake, the longer the day is, the more things you do in your day, it's the harder it is to actually be focused and be deliberate and intentional with your decision making as you get to the end of your day. So that's one of the reasons why we avoid evenings. We know people are busy. We know that as entrepreneurs, we have lives to live. If you're a parent, if you're a caregiver, if you also have, paid employment that you also do, um, adding something else into the evening, especially a learning program that requires that you arrive with a certain level of intentionality and the ability to focus and support other people in the room, it can be quite challenging. So we chose Wednesday mornings as a point where we can find people at their that are most likely to be at their freshest, their most intentional, their most focused. They haven't yet reached that point in their day where they're suffering from that decision fatigue. And I recognize that this is a time that's not going to work for everyone. And that's okay. Maybe in the future we could have different options for different days of the week that might work. We also have to pay attention to how our facilitators are when they also have to come into the room and hold a space when they're at the end of that day with that decision fatigue element. So when we think about programs that are related to our mental wealth and our business wellness, the recognition is that giving time to, whether you're carving out that time in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening, or on a weekend, it's an intentional adjustment. It's an intentional stepping into that space and saying, you know what? This is something that represents an investment for me and the future I want to create for myself, or even the now that I want to create for myself. And so we encourage that. So 9:30 to 12 on a Wednesday morning online via Zoom might not work for everyone, but it will work for some people. And if it works for you, then by all means, we encourage you to apply. And then the third question, and I'm sure anybody who knows me knows that, I was expecting this question. The third question is, what do you mean by Black? What do you mean by Black? So this program is meant for Black entrepreneurs and small business owners in Manitoba. So what do you mean by Black? And I'll add add the other side of the other component to this question that I've been getting from some other avenues, which is, why is this only for Black entrepreneurs? Why is this only for Black entrepreneurs? And of course, that comes with the other commentary that, all entrepreneurs need this kind of mental wealth, mental health, strategic narrative alignment sort of discussion and framing. Why is it just for Black entrepreneurs? And you know what? That is a good and valid question. I am always the first person to admit that I believe that learning in mixed spaces is really the best opportunities that we can afford ourselves. When we tend to clique into homogeneous groups, or groups that fit our own identities, and we all have the same lived experience, it actually puts a limit on how much we can learn, because we're not getting any new ideas, we're not getting any new stories coming in. It just becomes an echo chamber. So I'll be the first person to admit that. But I'm also going to say that I firmly believe that there needs to be, from time to time, a cultivation of spaces where people who have the same lived experience, who experience the same systemic issues, can actually gather together and speak freely in a way that makes sense for them, in a way that they understand, engaging with whatever colloquialisms and slangs and whatever spicy language and spicy way of delivering things, and they don't have to censor or excuse themselves in order to make someone who is not part of that identity or a cultural or framing group feel more comfortable or feel less like an outsider to that conversation. So there is a balance here that we're trying to maintain. To the question of why is this focused on Black entrepreneurs? I want to clarify that when we talk about, and who is Black, that's also part of the question. What do you mean by Black? So Black it's not a racial, I mean, some people use it in a racializing way, but really Black is a sociocultural and a political term, right? Black has very little to do with heritage, because many people will associate with their ancestry, their heritage, their nationality before they even say, okay, Black is in the mix. So we need to think about Black as a sociocultural identifier, that people who engage with Black culture tend to be people who are of African descent or of African heritage. And they may also be people who live in the diaspora, they're scattered all around the world. They may have roots that don't even allow them to identify with African heritage or descent. They might say, well, I'm Latina or Latino, I am from the Caribbean, I am Jamaican, I am Haitian, I am Ghanaian, before they will say that they are Black. So we need to acknowledge that part, and I'm fully aware of that. Um, then there's the other side of Black being a political term. So when we talk about Black as a political term, we're talking about people of that African descent or heritage, Caribbean descent or heritage, Latin American descent or heritage, even Canadian descent or heritage, who identify in some way with Black culture, and also can identify and see themselves being affected by some of the decisions, political here, the decision making and the systems that create barriers to accessing certain kinds of resources. Now, the thing is, everyone is subject to this. You don't have, it doesn't just happen to people who identify as Black. The key thing is that right now, at this point in time, we have funding that was specifically identified and earmarked for persons who identify with that sociocultural and political nomenclature of being a Black individual, a Black entrepreneur. And this is great because it means now that we have the opportunity to bring people together that identify with the lived experience of being a Black person, a Black entrepreneur, a small business owner who is working in Manitoba. And that's all that it is. In future, we may have funding to speak to other lived experiences and other identity groups, right? But right now, this funding is specifically aimed at um, Black entrepreneurs who self-identify as Black. So the key thing is, go to the application form. There's a little button that there is a question that asks, do you identify as Black? Yes or no? That's it. All right. We're not checking papers. We're not asking you for um uh we're not asking you for your identity documents. That's supposed to be a tongue-in-cheek remark there. We're not asking you to prove your Blackness. You know, when we all get together in the room, we will see everyone and we will witness everyone and we will value everyone and we will hold everyone the same. None of this is coming from the point of view that Black is a singular identity or that it's made up of just a group of individuals who look the same because they all have varying tones of dark skin. So I encourage you to go to the forum, work through it. You know, if you're unsure, submit an application nevertheless. We're doing an interview process, short interview, like a 15-minute call with each of the applicants to see, you know, how well do their expectations and where they are in their businesses align with the goals of the program. So if you're unsure, submit an application. You're either going to get a yes or you're going to get a no, but you won't know unless you submit. So all that to say, there's still some time to register. You can find the application on the application form on our website. That's reyoumindfulness.com. There's a little pop-up that comes up when you go to the home page, or you can search reyoumindfulness.com/rooted and rising. Registration ends on February 25th. Because we want to have some time between that time and March 4 to kind of get all our applicants ready for a start date. Everything is being done virtually with this program so that folks from rural and northern Manitoba can participate in the program. Folks with limited mobility issues can participate in the program. We want to make this as inclusive as possible for entrepreneurs of all types. So if there are challenges to being able to access Zoom or to be able to participate in the program in the way that we've designed it, we want you to let us know. We actually have a question on that for that on the form as well. And I just want to close by saying, what I think is the best part of this 7-week program is that, and this is what we're working towards. So our final session in this program happens on May 6th. Now, May 6th falls within that week of Mental Health Awareness Week. And this is, we couldn't have planned this better to be recruiting during Black History Month, then delivering the program between March and April, and then ending our program at the first week of May when we've got Mental Health Awareness Week. So on May 6th, this is the last day of our program. What we're working towards is a situation where all our participants, regardless of where they're from, whatever their stages of business, um, to be able to engage with other business leaders, to be able to engage with entrepreneur and Black mental health experts, to engage with other entrepreneur supporting organizations that will help each of our participants to grow their network of mental wealth and business wellness support going forward. So this isn't the kind of program that just stops with, oh, I learned these skills and I have a manual. This is a living, breathing program that puts you in a position to be able to access maybe networks and opportunities that you might not have been able to access before now. So I encourage you to apply, be curious, see what could happen, submit an application, see if you qualify, and then we'll take it from there. Have a great day, folks. Talk soon.